Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is emilyj, and today I'll be doing a video on how I got into Stanford. So for those of you who watch my channel, y'all know that my very first video was how I got into Stanford, but I was looking back at it and I was like, Lord, this video is rough. Like, I cringed looking at it, so I can only imagine what y'all were experiencing. So I was like, we gotta redo this, period. So before I begin, I just want to acknowledge that this is my experience. This is how I think I got into Stanford. So I definitely recommend, listening to my experience, but also taking it with a grain of salt. And without further ado, let's get into it. So my GPA weighted was a 4.0. My unweighted GPA was a 4.3. And my class rank was 1 out of 94. So in school, I basically took all the classes that my school had to offer. They added a few more my senior year, but I was trying to graduate, so I was like, I don't want to stress myself, and plus due to scheduling issues and, So I took 9 AP classes in total. I took 1 dual enrollment my senior year, and I took 6 honors classes. So just listing on my ACT scores, my composite was a 28, my English was a 34, my reading was a 33, in math I had a 24, and in science I had a 26. As you'll see in my previous video of how I view my Stanford admissions file, when admission officers took a look at my test scores, at the time I actually had a 26 on the ACT, and I still got in. I got the 28 on the ACT in February of 2019, but admission officers had looked at my stuff prior to then. So whenever they saw my score, I actually had a lower score than what I submitted later on. So honestly, I think this just comes to show that test scores don't matter. It's all about how you're crafting your essays and the rest of your application. And also, college admission officers are looking at your testing holistically. They're looking at your application holistically, and they're looking at you as a person and a well-rounded individual, and not just your test scores. So I just want to encourage y'all, don't stress about testing, especially this year with testing being optional. Just we're focused on making your essays fire, focus on, just doing your best on everything else. Additionally, for me, on the ACT, when I first took the ACT, I had an 18, but then I started doing test prep with college access programs. And also, I used this test prep book, which I'll link below. Those different sources, I was able to grow my ACT score about 10 points to get to the 28. For extracurriculars, I was pretty involved in school. For me, it's I didn't really have, I had nothing to do at home, so I was like, I might as well go do something. And something turned to a whole bunch of things. But I had fun. I was band captain. I was student body president. For powerlifting, I was co-captain. For winter guard, I was flag captain. For track, I was co-captain. And FYI, I'm not a runner. I'm a thrower, period. I don't run. I was also in journalism club, the Louisiana Youth Advisory Council. I was the 4-H club president. I was in Educators Rising, and I was a founder of the Education Is Hope project, which is a little project that I did on the side. So to be honest, I was doing the most in school. I was very involved, and when I submitted my application, I actually had won 6 state championships at the time. So, I definitely was very busy and heavily involved in my community and my school, and I think that helped me to stand out with admission officers. But I really just want to recommend, do what you enjoy and do things that you care about and that you're passionate, and it'll work out from there. Because I think, too, admission officers aren't looking for students who are super, just in everything, and, you're just doing it to put it on your application. They want to see that you're doing these things because you care and you want to make an impact on your community. So I definitely recommend, even if you do 2 to 3 clubs, that's perfectly fine. Just do what you care about and do things that you enjoy, and just focus on how you're impacting your community, your student body, your, your friends, or whoever you may be doing it for. But the biggest thing is that you want to make impact, and you want to do things that you genuinely care about. So moving into AP scores. So I actually didn't submit my AP scores. When I looked at Stanford's website, they were like, oh, AP scores are optional. And I said, oh. I think test scores are, test scores are important, but I also think that they're not as important as your essays and the different things that you bring to the table, like your extracurriculars, how you're involved in your community, and the impact that you're making. I think Stanford is so intentional about looking at your application holistically and looking at the resources that you had, the support you had, like, like where you come from, and like different things like that, like your experiences, how you're making impact in your community. They're looking for student leaders and different things like that. So I definitely recommend, don't stress about scores. Don't stress about scores. Don't worry about trying to, get like a perfect one, an ACT or SAT. The most important thing is, if you feel that you have lower test scores, try to strengthen other parts of your application, like your essays or your extracurriculars and different things like that, to really shine and show that you're a well-rounded student. So for my honors, when I submitted my application, I had a few honors under my belt, but most of them started rolling in after I submitted my application. So at the time of my submission, I was a Leader Cohort 14 scholar. So for those of you who don't know, I was in Leadership Enterprise for a Diverse America. And basically, it's a really, really amazing college access program that supports students in getting admitted to like really excellent colleges around the U.S. and just supporting with like the college admissions process and like even after. So additionally, I was an Advanced Placement Scholar or an AP Scholar. So that means I scored a 3 or higher on 3 or more AP tests. I was a Questbridge College Prep Scholar. I was on the principal's list, and I was the West Baton Rouge Parish Student of the Year. So honestly, I had honors, but it wasn't an overload. I really started to get my stuff. I really started to win stuff like after I submitted my application. So I just want to encourage y'all, if you get honors after you submit your application, you can go back and update your admissions file. So for those of you who, if you're like a Gates semi-finalist, or you're a Jack Kent Cook finalist, or you win a Coca-Cola scholarship, make sure you go back and put that on your application. Admission officers really want to see like that you're winning, that you're making impact. They want to see the different accolades and awards that you're winning, because they take that into context as they make that decision. For those of you who may attend like a larger high school that's super competitive, and y'all have 10 valedictorians, so it might be hard to get awards, or it's super competitive, also think like, don't feel discouraged, or don't feel like, wow, like because I don't have these honors, I'm not good enough, or like I'm not going to get admitted. Do not feel deterred. For me, I have friends who really, they had awards and different things like that, but it's like for them, like, they were very stressed about that portion of the application, and they still ended up getting into amazing schools. I want to encourage you, don't worry about what you don't have, but what you do have and what you do bring to the table. And additionally, like, you are the table, period. So it's like you have to carry that mindset as you continue to craft your application, like hold nothing back. And even some of the things that you might consider to be some of the smallest awards, like principal's list or something like that, that's actually a huge accomplishment. And you really want to make that shine on your application and show them like, I'm really here, and it's like, this is what I bring to the table, and this is what I'm doing. And be confident in your application, and be confident in what you bring, because once again, you are the table, period. So for my essays, I really put my all into my essays, because I knew that my test scores weren't that high, and I didn't submit my AP scores. So I really wanted to provide Stanford context of who I am and where I come from, and like what's my story, and like what are my passions. Above to read my Stanford essays and like really get context of what I've submitted. So I think for the most part it turned out really well. For me, I started writing my essays during LEADER, so they had us writing our essays like early August, and we worked on our essays with multiple rounds of revision all the way until December when we had to submit. So I really tried to give context about who I am and like my life and school, so they could really see me and who I am as a person and what I care about. Because one thing that colleges really take into context, especially for like as they admit students, they're not looking for the student who has like a 36 on the ACT and a 4.0. they're looking for the student who would be a great fit for their college. So they're looking for students who, would really blend in Stanford's culture, who would really shine in California or in Silicon Valley, or who could really benefit from the Stanford resources and grow. That's what they're looking for. So I just want to encourage y'all in your essays to really just be yourself and have fun. Like, tell your story, go all out and really just show them who you are. So I think it's just so important to continue to tell your story and be true to yourself and be honest and really just put it all out on the table, because once again, boo, you are the table, period. So moving into interviews. So I personally didn't have an interview. Stanford didn't reach out to me about an interview and I didn't request one. So I was like, ooh. But for those of you who do have interviews, I just want to encourage you to not sleep on your interviews. Like, they're super important. So the way that interviews work is Stanford alumni within your area will usually reach out to you to schedule an interview. And it's pretty chill and informal, but it's basically a way for them to get to know more about you and figure out if you're a great fit for Stanford, what are some different interests and passions that you have. And they're really, the only thing that interviewers do, they can only help you rather than hurt you. So they're kind of like the person behind the scenes vouching for that. So they're really in your corner and they're trying to help you to get admitted into Stanford. So for example, if there's something on your application that you didn't convey, but you tell your interviewer that, they're able to really support you and say yes, this person didn't mention this, but I think that it's super important to take that into context as you consider their application. So they're only there to help you. So I definitely recommend as you approach your interviews, make sure you're looking at sample college interview questions and prepare based off of that. Additionally, I think it's super important to continue to, after you have your interview, write your interviewer and thank them for interviewing you. The biggest thing is you want to have game. So whenever someone takes the time to interview you and to get to know more about you and to vouch for you, make sure that you thank them for their time, that you tell them what you enjoyed, what are some things that you learned. And it could be 3 to 5 sentences, but you really just want to show gratitude and express thank you for taking this time to interview me. So that concludes me running through my scores and different things like that. So now I'm gonna move into tips and different things y'all should take into account as you continue to craft your applications. So tip number one, do your research. I cannot express this enough, how important it is to know about the college you are applying to, especially with Stanford. So for me, whenever I was crafting my applications, I was really looking at different things that Stanford had to offer that made me interested. So for me, I love the Thinking Matters curriculum, which is a curriculum that every freshman has to go through once they arrive at Stanford. Additionally, I talked about my passion for advocacy and social justice, and that was something that I kind of knew Stanford had, but I didn't know the extremities of it. There's a lot of student advocates doing amazing work on campus, and for me, I talked about how I was interested in getting involved and really just doing more advocacy work since I had done so much at home. And at the time, I think for admission officers, that really captivated them and made them wow, this student has really done their research and they know a lot about Stanford. So I just want to encourage y'all, make sure you go on the Stanford website and that you look at different resources and opportunities that Stanford has. And also, if you feel comfortable and also if you have your parents' permission, you can always reach out to Stanford students. All of us are almost all the Stanford students I met are so cool, so chill, and willing to help students. So I would definitely recommend reaching out to Stanford students to learn more about their college experience, to learn about the different things that they enjoy at Stanford, and kind of get that behind the scenes look. So my next tip would be extracurricular. So when I crafted my extracurriculars, I didn't say I led practice or I wrote a book or I tried to refrain from using I statements, and rather I treated my extracurriculars like it was a resume. So basically I always started with action verbs like led practice, advised students, mentored students, and different things like that. So because I was able to do that, not only was I able to save in the word count, but also I was more intentional about what I was writing. and I help to eliminate the I and we. And next tip would be have a theme for your Common App. So I think for me, as I continue to craft my Common App and putting together my extracurriculars, my honors, my essays, I was intentional about having a angle that I wanted to take as I continue to tell my story. So for me, as you'll see in my essays and my extracurriculars and, you know, like my honors and different things like that, I was really interested in leadership, student advocacy, mental health, like law and government, my natural hair, and like really coming to terms and owning my blackness. And those were things that I really, as I continue to craft my application, like I was really intentional about emphasizing, conveying to admission counselors. But basically, you just want to have an angle for your Common App as a whole. You want to continue to show different parts of yourself and different aspects of yourself, and you want them to see the full you. But there are certain things that you want to emphasize and highlight and show consistently throughout your application. So I definitely recommend doing some soul searching, you know, going through and thinking about what you value and what you care about, and from there putting that on your application and really allowing those things to shine. My last but definitely not least tip would be is to practice self-care. Just give me context of my story. I applied to Princeton early action and I got deferred. So when I applied to Princeton, you know, I was like, oh, this is my dream school. Like, I know I'm going to get into Princeton. You know, you couldn't tell me nothing, period. And then I got deferred in December, and I just began to, like, you know, really lean in on myself and really practice self-care. And I learned that, you know, the biggest thing is it's so important to trust the process and trust that you're going to end up where you're supposed to be at the end of the day. So for me, like, I started going to church like 24/7. I started hanging out with my friends more and really practicing self-care and doing things that make me happy. The biggest thing that I learned is my school doesn't define me, and it doesn't define what I'm going to do in life and where I'm going to go, period. So for me, I was like, I just want to enjoy my senior year. I want to enjoy my friends in the last to practice self-care. Show yourself some love throughout the process. And, you know, I know with quarantine and different things like that, self-care is real different. But, you know, that can include, you know, FaceTiming your friends, doing like a, you know, little facial at night. I can show you how to do facials on the low. You know, doing your facials, working out, exercising, getting 8 hours of sleep every night, which is super important. Like, there are different ways to show yourself love and practice self-care. But I think that's super important throughout this admissions process. Also, most importantly, show yourself patience and gratitude. Like, that's the best thing you can do. And just continue to believe. Like, you're going to end up where you're supposed to be. You're going to end up at an amazing institution, no matter where you may go. Like, all institutions are amazing. And to even have the opportunity or the chance to go and further your education, that's a blessing by itself, no matter where you may be. That's all that I have for y'all today. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for my next video, and definitely stay tuned for my next video. And definitely don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and turn on those notifications, period. So without further ado, thank y'all so much, and see y'all next time.